The Boston Bruins offseason has been wild. Join me as we talk about the team's coaching change, team additions, team subtractions, their draft picks, their cap situation, grading their players' contracts, as well as the expectations for the Boston Bruins in 2023, 2024, and beyond. Are you excited for everything Bruins? I am. Let's go. The Boston Bruins offseason starts and ends with Don Sweeney. He went ahead and he added a new coach after letting go his friend and high-performing coach Bruce Cassidy. Bruce Cassidy is off to the Vegas Golden Knights, and Jim Montgomery of the St. Louis Blues is in. The Bruins are looking to add Montgomery due to his special teams knowledge. This man absolutely carried the St. Louis Blues power play to the second best in the NHL. He has a history of developing and working with younger players, and Don Sweeney and the Bruins want to play an aggressive offensive game as well as a tight defensive game. They think Montgomery is going to be the guy to do it. Montgomery coming in gets a grading of B for me. I actually think this is a downgrade from Cassidy, but time will tell. The roster hasn't been completely overhauled here in Boston. There's been minor changes, but some big ones. First off, Patrice Bergeron resigns, as well as David Krejci comes back on in, so the band is back together. These are two massive additions down the middle, both at 36 years old. Obviously, David Krejci coming back from Europe after his 1 year off. Now, Krejci was wooed back by Patrice Bergeron and the rest of the gang. We'll see what a 36-year-old David Krejci still has. He had a productive season last year over in Europe, and his final season with the Bruins, he was actually able to put up 44 points and 8 goals. The only other addition is Paval Zacha over from the New Jersey Devils. I like this addition. 36 points on the year, a GSVA, game score value add of 1. Pavel Zacha comes in with 15 goals, and I love it. It might only be 36 points, but 15 goals is still 15 goals. I like the addition and the depth here. I give this a C grade because we can't include Bergeron here. As good as his contract is, and as good as the Krejci signing is, there really wasn't a lot of moves made by Don Sweeney this offseason, but you don't really need to make them when you're that good. Only 2 noticeable subtractions for the Boston Bruins here. Erik Haula and Curtis Lazar are out. Loss of Erik Haula hurts a little bit. He's got a 1.8 game score value add. He was a productive defensive player and middle six player for the Bruins that will be replaced by David Krejci. He had 44 points on the year, including 18 goals. So Zacha in, Haula out, but Krejci in as well, and Curtis Lazar, the notable fourth line player, ends up walking, but he has a game score value out of 0.4, meaning he is simply replaceable. I give this a B+ because if you only lost Erik Haula, you made the playoffs last year. That is not a bad loss for the Boston Bruins considering what they added. The last piece of the offseason puzzle is the draft. They brought in Matthew Patrice. He was pick number 54. He's a second round pick for Boston. We're not expecting him to make an impact in 2022, 2023 right now, but it's a second round pick. He ends up in the system. Boston's never been really noted as a draft and develop team anyway. And frankly, they shouldn't be, especially with Sweeney's draft record. It's one of the worst in the NHL. So this one goes ahead and gets a C for me. That brings the Boston Bruins offseason grade to a C+. And hey, C's get degrees, right? The Bruins didn't really lose anything that they didn't replace. Their draft is what it is. Don Sweeney is who he is when it comes to drafting. He hasn't really made any notable swings, moves, or plays compared to the other general managers in the league, but this was a team that was primed for a deep run last year. Yes, they lost in the first round. They may actually be as good, if not a little bit better this year, so just holding on when you're already a contender is fine by me. Moving over to the salary cap hit, looking into the offseason, if you look back 2 months ago, this looked ugly, but they have $1.2 million left according to Cap Friendly. They're at about $81 million in cap space used, and that is after signing Bergeron and Krejci. Bergeron and Krejci took huge team-friendly deals that had large amounts of performance bonuses attached to them. You're actually allowed to go over the salary cap by 7.5% if you pay your player in performance bonuses. For example, Patrice Bergeron only has to play 10 games with the Bruins to hit his performance bonus. Now, don't worry, this isn't like an LTIR or like a tricky thing that you can do. This will actually get deferred to next year. So if both Krejci and Bergeron do hit their performance bonuses, which they will, that's how the contracts are really structured. It's a pretty easy layup for both. That means there will be some dead cap hit next year, but that's okay because the Bruins salary cap the year after next opens up pretty well. So this was a very smart signing by Don Sweeney. He may not be excellent at drafting, but he's very good at signing free agents, and he's not bad at trades. Taking a look at the Boston Bruins roster right now, we've broken it down into 4 different categories. Core players, these are guys who are locked in for the next 3+ years. Impending contracts, these are players who have 1 to 2 years left on their deal and are likely to either be re-signed by Boston or have some trade value left for them, so you can go ahead and flip them for future assets. Then you have your rental players. These are your own rentals with 1 year or less. You may be looking to trade some of these guys if you're out of the playoffs. And then finally, you have your ugly contract. So your core from this team really is Marchand, Hall, McAvoy, Lindholm, and Carlo. Unfortunately, David Pastrnak hasn't re-signed yet with the Bruins. That would be a massive addition to this core. You have to think he's going to go ahead and join this group of folks. Jake DeBrusk has 2 years left on his deal. We all know the saga that is Jake DeBrusk. He wants in, he wants out, but now he's looking like he wants to stay, and all players like playing meaningful hockey, so that's where DeBrusk sits in. Paval Zacha is an RFA right now. He hasn't re-signed yet, but he will re-sign with the Bruins here. They're going to find a way to keep him. Matt Grzelcyk, little Matty Grzelcyk, one of the most elite defensemen. If you check out my top 30 defensemen, I have Matt Grzelcyk in the top 20 right now. He's definitely going to be a core piece for the Bruins, in my opinion, going forward. He's way too good to let go. Then you got guys like Mike Riley, Derek Forbort, which I hate the contract in. Jets fan, very familiar with Derek Forbort. Meat and potatoes guy, but $3 million was way too much. Swing and a miss on that one there, Sweeney, but at least he's productive. And then you have Jeremy Swayman sitting there in the wings. I think Swayman is the better goalie. I think Swayman's their starter. I think Swayman's the guy you got to get the deal done. Swayman, to me, is the future of the Boston Bruins, and I think he's going to have an excellent year. Last year, he was the better goalie in the playoffs. I've been saying it now for almost 2 years. Jeremy Swayman is the man for Boston, and he should be. We'll just have to see how they end up dishing out the ice time, and that will be Jim Montgomery's conundrum with Linus Ullmark. You can see he's down there in the ugly category. 3+ years left with $5 million to go. I hate when you have timeshares between goalies. Goalies don't like it either. You need to have a defined starter and you need to have a solid backup. You do not want to be splitting time with 2 goalies specifically in net. Why? Because goalies are, they're mental head cases. All right, I said it. They're very emotionally fragile at times. And you know what? We had a great interview with my buddy Carson Sherpak, who's a Div 1 goalie, hopefully a future pro goalie. And he let us know on the insight as to when 2 goalies work together, they love to push each other. They actually usually do have a pretty good relationship in the locker room. But at the end of the day, every goalie wants their minutes. Ullmark's going to want his minutes. Swayman's going to want his minutes. They're going to push each other. But this isn't something that usually works out well in the NHL. You need a defined starter, so that is why I say this is an ugly contract. Then you take a look at the rental players. Patrice Bergeron will not be traded at the deadline regardless. They will not do him that dirty. Bergeron comes in for a year on a beautiful contract. Same with David Krejci. Craig Smith has 1 year left for the Boston Bruins. Then you got Thomas Nosek, you got Wagner, you got Clifton. These are guys who you may move out at the deadline. Not Bergeron, not Krejci. It's just not going to happen. There's no way they're going to play that kind of game with those 2. But the rest of these guys, if the Boston Bruins do indeed miss the playoffs, could end up being moved out for future assets. Now let's move over here to capfriendly.com so you can see this. It's a visualization exercise. Here you can see 2022, 2023, everybody is locked in. Everything looks happy. But the year after that, which is 2023, 2024, there is a ton of contracts coming up, including David Pastrnak. You can see our core here with Marchand, Hall, Coyle. DeBrusk is pending because he is only one of 2 forwards right now up there with Oscar Steen that actually end up having 2 years left on their deal. So this whole team is actually going to completely turn over when it comes to 2023, 2024. Taking a look at the defensemen, their core top 3 defensemen, they are locked in for quite some time. Brandon Carlo, Hampus Lindholm, Charlie McAvoy, and I think Matt Grzelcyk is going to end up joining them. So the strength of this team is actually going to be built from the back end out. And then you have Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark here, and we have talked about them for quite some time. So as you look down, what you end up seeing is a couple of their, let's call them prospects or people who are in their system. There's nobody here for me that actually jumps out as anything that's going to be incredible. We're just going to have to wait and see. There's definitely some names here we could talk. Just don't have have time to really go through all of these different names that could end up contributing for Boston in the next 4 or 5 years. So you can go over to capfriendly.com right here and you can do your own exploratory research. Now, if you head over to theathletic.com, you can actually see an article by my favorite, Dom Luszczyszyn, talking about salary grades. This guy goes ahead and uses advanced analytics as well as core analytics like goals, assists, and points to take a look at a player's contributing factor of dollars versus contribution, and that contribution ends up being team wins and team victories. So when we take a look here, you can see the Boston Bruins have a situation of A-, which is pretty good. They're one of the best teams in the NHL in terms of contract and salary usage. What you end up seeing is you see Brad Marchand and Charlie McAvoy are the two best contracts on this team right now, and you'll notice that Bergeron and Krejci aren't on this list, but they would also get an A+ in this model. If you ask me, especially Bergeron, what they end up paying for that guy being a top line center, absolute steal. So Pastrnak, Marchand, and then you go ahead and you take a look at Matt Grzelcyk and Charlie McAvoy. Those are your 4 best contracts outside of the 2 newbies, veterans, that have signed. Then you got a few B+ contracts and B contracts. That's Craig Smith, Jake DeBrusk, Taylor Hall. Then you're going to take a look at guys like Mike Riley and Jacob Zabrell. These are good deals for what they're contributing. The 2 albatrosses that you need to look out for this year are going to be Charlie Coyle and Hampus Lindholm. These guys have monster deals and they are not contributing, or they didn't contribute last year anyway, and live up to the expectations of those deals. You as a fan might be fine, and you comment down below. Let me know what you think of Coyle and Lindholm. But right now, the math says that these guys are the 2 worst contracts on the Bruins. I'm going to give Lindholm a pass. I like what I saw from him in the playoffs. These numbers don't include playoff performance, and it's always tough when a player is traded mid-season. So let's go ahead and give Lindholm one more year to see how he does. I think he rebounds. These 2 guys are going to be critical and important because we know right now that McAvoy and Marchand, the 2 best contracts on this list, are going to be injured until December thanks to shoulder surgery and other surgeries that both of these players need. So Bergeron and Krejci couldn't have joined any sooner. Coyle and Lindholm are going to have to pick up their socks. Now, before we get to our overall outlook, I want to thank our executive members here on this channel that brought you this video. It is a brown tiger and a tasty snack to diehard Bruins fans that are part of our executive suite. Big shout out to all our executive members and our lower bowl members. You can join below as well by hitting the join button on our homepage or down below on this video. And if you don't want to go ahead and join the members page, and that's totally all right, the free subscribe button and the free thumbs up goes a long way to help us. Go ahead, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe so you're always notified for the best from Hot Garbage Sports. And if you're not a diehard Bruins fan, I got 31 other teams coming for you. So leave that bell on and think about joining our Discord if you want to get in touch with Coach Ryan D. Now let's go ahead and talk about the expectations of the Bruins next year and beyond. I have the Bruins in 2022 and 2023 as a playoff contender. The risk to miss the playoffs, though, I have it medium. Why? The Detroit Red Wings have made some amazing moves within their division. They are the most improved team this offseason, and that other team from Ontario, well, they did pretty darn good. So the Toronto Maple Leafs rivals, the Ottawa Senators. The Ottawa Senators have made some big moves as well too. So we know we got the 2 teams from Florida. We know we got the Leafs. We know we got the Bruins, but you have 2 teams that are going to be knocking on the door as well. The risk there is medium because, hey, 2 of your best players are out, especially the second best defenseman in the NHL who is butting against Cale Makar to be the best, Charlie McAvoy and Brad Marchand. That is going to be a lot for Krejci and for Bergeron to have to carry. Matty Grzelcyk's going to have to carry it. Guys like Hampus Lindholm are going to have to improve drastically. So if they can make it to December with the players that they have right now, they will be just fine. But the big question is, what does their start look like? And then if their start is a little bit rocky, can they actually claw out of the hole? The final concern I have with them is going to be their goaltender splitting. I had it in the playoffs last year. I'm still going to have it in the regular season this year. Unless they can define how they are going to manage their net and manage their goalies, they could be in a little bit of trouble. In 2023 and beyond, this team is going to be an aggressive rebuild. It's the Bruins. It's always an aggressive rebuild. They are never going to totally rebuild because it's Boston. They will trade. They will free agent their way in. Whether or not that's the right way, does not matter, because that is what Don Sweeney and Bruins ownership wants and is going to do. So this team is totally going to turn over. This is the last dance for this team right now and this core, but you're going to see a lot of familiar faces in 2023, 2024, and beyond that are going to be built around aggressively through free agency and through trades. All right, everybody, let me know if you liked what you were seeing here. Remember, stay tuned. We got 31 other teams coming as well. And why don't you go ahead and check out our list of our top 30 defensemen in the NHL right now, and go ahead and take a look at this awesome interview with a player of mine, Carson Sherpak. He'll be an up-and-coming goaltender that you're going to want to pay attention to over the next 4 years while he plays D1 in the South for the NCAA at RPI. Thanks for being here. Catch you in the next one.